Welcome to Thursday, everyone. Last Thursday, listeners, Sandy gave us a taste of how to use hashtags on Instagram. Today on part 2, Sandy runs through a couple more issues with hashtags that you may not have heard of. Let's get back to hear more from Sandy.
One other thing that might come up, and that's shadow banning. And when you post, just go through your tags. You might see that they're all correct. If you're copying and pasting from notes and you've used them, you'll know they're correct. If you've added a few more tags in because of the pattern, when you've posted, just go back and check it and see that it does go through to that site. If it doesn't, it may be a spelling error, or check another tag. And if they aren't going through the tags and you can't find them, you may have been shadow banned. And that's something that Instagram does if they don't like a particular tag that you've used. And you never know, it's a state secret, but you never know which ones they ban. But we know someone who used the word derriere as being just a bit cheeky.
Oh, okay.
And it was shadow banned. Someone else used bikini. It was shadow banned. And what happens is your tags mightn't work for up to 48 hours. And then it's like putting you in timeout, then you're back again. And that's what's called shadow banning of the hashtags. And so it's important for you just to make sure that your tags are working. Every now and again, just have a little check.
I've never heard of shadow banning.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, right. It happens.
I mean, I'll tell you, one thing I do is if I'm going to use a hashtag and I think, what else does this bring up? I'll actually have a look. And if it brings up certain images that I don't want on my feed, I'll look at some other sort of tag.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one bit of advice I'd give to pattern companies. When they do a release, I would suggest that part of their marketing, when the whole pattern is evolving, what is this hashtag going to look like on Instagram?
Yes.
And because that's where all the makes will go into the sorting bin, and that's where they will find their pattern. So if it's added as an afterthought or they don't even use one, then it might just come under all their patterns. And I think they're doing themselves a great disservice if they're not putting it. You see the big four now are not using the numbers. The new ones that are coming out, they're actually giving names to their patterns. So they're using the sorting bin of giving names to their patterns for the big four. That's a really interesting take as to what they're doing. You can still use the numbers, but how interesting it is that they're using Instagram along these lines now.
It is. In conversation with other sellers, you can talk about a particular pattern quite easily with the name, more so than the number.
Yes.
And it's been going on for a while. So that's actually a really good change that we've seen now.
Yes. So they'll be using that. They've still got the choice of, but I think it's interesting that they've picked up on that because people will pick up on names. Like everyone will go, have you made a whatever? And people don't use numbers too often unless they're very well known. I think pattern companies really have to be very mindful that when they do their release, they also release a tag.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yes, yeah. The other thing, just before we head off, is security. You can actually use a hashtag as a security system so that you can make your own hashtag yourself. And then if anyone is using your account unbeknownst to you, and it doesn't happen, look, it's rare, but we know of people who've had their accounts lifted, their whole post or page, they will be able to track that. So we would suggest that, and I must admit, I don't follow my own advice. It's do as I say, don't do as I do. But if I wanted to make one up, I would do sunny days sows. And then I could go and look at my own hashtag and just see what's there, and it's all my own stuff. But if I see it repeating and thinking, well, why is that there? Someone has repeated that, not necessarily without your permission, but someone who's maybe using it with a slightly different name, so they've lifted your site. And that's when you have to report it to Instagram and say that someone is impersonating you. So using that as an added extra security as well is another way to make sure that hashtags work for you.
That's really clever advice. Thanks, Sandy.
I like that one.
Oh, I love it too. I'm going to go and have a look at it as soon as we finish.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hashtags, I always think I'm going to be on Mastermind, and your category is hashtags on Instagram.
You would blitz it when it comes to hashtags. I do have one question. Sorry, it just came to mind. can you use hashtags, not just in the text of your post, but can you tag the image with a hashtag?
You can't tag an image with a hashtag. You can only do it with an @ And I would advise against doing that, because what happens is if you've got an image and you say tag @Sober50, what happens is then we get all your comments going onto our DMs. You're better off using your @ symbol just in the post, and that advises us that you have mentioned us and we can have a look. But to be quite honest, if you just put #Sober50, we'll see you. That's the best way to go. If you put the @ on your page, we will not only get all your DMs, and if you put it down in the post as well, that could slide off our DMs, because we do get a lot of DMs. But the best thing for people to see you is to put the @ in the text below, not on the photo, and then the hashtag pertinent to the sorting bit that you want to go in. So whether it's Jarly Patterns or however you set it, Jarly Patterns, hashtag that below, and you can @ them as well, and that alerts them. But yes, doing it on photos can be a little bit annoying, because then the people that you're wanting to alert, then they're getting everyone's notifications on their DMs as well.
Definitely going to keep that in mind. I think I've messed up a few times in the past, but I know that after hearing all of your advice around hashtags, I'm in a better space to actually use them.
Yes.
In a way that helps me, but helps the other people that I'm following, and also that I get inspired from.
Yes. And the important thing is spell the hashtag correctly, because you won't go in the right sorting bin otherwise, and you won't be connecting across Instagram and with other followers if you're not using the correct spelling.
I know a lot of people who are listening will really benefit from what you've just told us today. So thank you, Sandy.
Thanks, Maria. I hope it has been helpful. And if they've got any other questions, they can always DM us Sober50 anyway.
That's wonderful. Well, thanks again, Sandy, for being on our Thursday daily podcast show. I know this is going to give people something more to think about and get involved in their day.
I do think there is a little bit of science about the hashtags, but if you get it right, put in your notes, copy and paste, tweak it, check every now and again you're not being shadow banned, and just spell it all correctly, you've got it in a nutshell.
That's wonderful. Thanks a lot, Sandy.
Okay, thanks, Maria.
Thanks again, listeners, for joining us in part 2 of Hashtags, brought to you by Sandy of So Over 50. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.